Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. It looks like our email provider was a little bit excited and trigger happy. Actually sent our email out about 5 minutes early. So it's technically 5:14, but I didn't want you guys to wait any longer. Let me say hello to everyone who's making it into the room. Xavier from San Diego. Xavier says I'm a little bit under the weather, but still watching. Way to power through that, Xavier. Alex is joining us. How's it going, Alex? If you would, just a huge favor as you're making it into the room, make sure that you say hello. Tell us where you are joining us from and one thing that you're excited about, what you feel life and momentum on today, because it's always really important for us to interact with you. I know that actually the last 2 weeks, I wasn't live. We had actually did pre-recorded Mentor Mondays, which is not the way that we like to do things, but I was in Mississippi taking care of my mom, who's in her 70s. She had a knee replacement. She's crushing it, unbelievably crushing it. And so I've learned so much about perseverance and determination and hard work and so many kinds of values that I actually got from my mom. And not surprising that she's just crushing it and running around all over the place. It's amazing. But I am happy to be back home because it's only like 65 degrees here and it's sunny. And while I was in Mississippi, it was 90 something degrees and 97% humidity. Like it was legit, like 97% humidity, not exaggerating it, but that's what the weather said. There's Bart. Bart says in Centennial, Colorado this afternoon, and excited to be helping others think beyond their current perspective. I love that. Anybody else, as you are making it into the room, make sure that you say hello to us. There's Kathy joining us from Orange County. Finalized my test and working on building my site now, pushing through on the amazing training. Yes, way to go, Kathy. Lynn is also joining us from San Diego. Welcome, Lynn. Just as you're making it into the room, go ahead and say hello to us. Also, do us a huge favor because today is a live Q&A. I know a lot of times I come in here with a topic, and we unpack a topic, and then we save a little bit of time for Q&A at the end or reading your comments or whatever. Today, though, is all based on your questions. What questions do you have? Whether you are just thinking about becoming a coach, whether you are struggling with a client, whether you have something on the skill side, on the business side, whatever your question is, just a huge favor, go ahead and throw it in the comments, and I will get to as many questions as I possibly can during this time and answer them for you. Plus, I want to give you a preview of something that is actually going to drop this Saturday. Might as well tell you what that is. This Saturday, this new training that we've developed is going to be dropping. And it's called How to Grow Your Instagram Following for Coaches. We've made this training because we have a lot of coaches who have either been online for a while, been thinking about getting online, or a lot of even some of our traditional coaches who have increasingly shown an interest. I mean, what we do in our Jumpstart program is that we help traditional coaches, so face-to-face in your local area, but also hybrid coaches, some who are doing face-to-face, but also who are finding clients online. And then we also help coaches who are going fully online with their practices. But one of the things that's true about Instagram these days is a lot's changed. And I'm still watching coaches doing things and implementing methods that were working maybe 2 or 3 years ago, 5 years ago, but they're not actually relevant now. And even for me, I'm always investing in my own training. So I'm going to bring to you 2021 training that will actually help you grow your Instagram following. And here's what you can expect in this training. Who's it for, first of all? It's for coaches who have been intimidated by Instagram and haven't taken the leap yet. I know that's many of you. It's also for coaches who've been working really hard but are just not getting the traction that they would like to see inside their Instagram. And coaches who have also gotten some results, but they want better results. Here's what's included. What's included is the latest trends in growing your Instagram. Again, this is going to be fresh information. And one of the things that I have been really blessed with is having some of the greatest social media influencers and minds that are out there. There's about 50,000 data points that Instagram actually looks at these days. And you don't have to know all 50,000 data points. What you do need to know is how are people actually getting followers on Instagram? And also, how do you actually turn a follower into a client Those are really important things. What else is included? Well, here's what else is included. What the Instagram algorithm is looking at and rewarding. So I know we talk a lot about algorithms when it comes to social media, and people are always trying to hack and figure those things out. Let me just give you this tip in general when it comes to social media. Every social media platform is looking for engagement. So it's looking for your engagement with people, just like even right now in this Facebook video. One of the things that Facebook's looking at is you guys actually watching me right now. One of the things that Facebook's looking at is you guys commenting right now. One of the things that Facebook is looking at is that when people come on here, that I say, "Hi, Michelle, thank you for commenting." And that will actually comment back. Michelle says, "I have an Instagram account with 1,500 followers and I don't even post. I need to start using it." Yes, but what a great problem, Michelle. 1,500 followers, that's awesome. So we want to show you what Instagram actually rewards and what it's looking for primarily today. What's no longer working? Because again, some of you are doing things that were relevant 2 years ago. It simply doesn't work anymore. And lastly, the most common mistakes coaches are making and how to correct them, because I see coaches doing bad stuff on their Instagram all the time. And I can't just sit idly by and watch this going on. Okay. Here's what your enrollment options are. We're going to do the training for only $47. Now, this is not going to be a live training. When we post this, when you enroll, that training is going to drop on Saturday and you'll have access to it. And it's self-paced. So you're going to be able to log in and look at everything that's on there. Also, the other option that you can do now, listen, we're only going to make this training available just for a couple of weeks. For those of you who are only making the purchase for $47, you're only going to have a couple of weeks to be able to get it. The only way else that you can get it and how you could probably benefit the most is actually if you enrolled in Jumpstart, our business development roadmap that includes every program that we actually offer, including certification, business development, brand camp, weekly group coaching calls, all of that. It's only $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment, and you'll get this automatically added when you join. Hey, so let's do this. Let's look at any questions that you guys have for the Q&A. Enough of that. Let me say hello to a couple more people. There's Ira from New York. Excited to start my coaching practice, but I don't know how to get my first client. Got it. Edwin from Mission Viejo, California. Ruva, how's it going? Let's see. Karen says, "I am excited about obtaining my certification over the weekend." That's awesome. Well, cool. Do me a huge favor and put any of your questions that you have inside the chat. Michelle, I'll answer that question. I don't know if you put that in a while ago. The Instagram training is just going to be recorded. So we've been creating all of that, and that content's just going to be available. It's going to drop on Saturday. Awesome. So let's jump into your questions for today. And what I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to grab our whiteboard and throw it on there. I'm going to put up a question that was sent in ahead of time, and then I'll answer any other ones that we have time for. And here's the question: is it okay to coach friends, or is that something coaches should avoid? This is a great question, and I'm going to give you a bigger answer to it, because the simple answer is just to say, well, yeah, you can coach friends if you want to. You can coach family if you want to. That's a simple answer, because I'm not exactly sure what you were getting at with regard to, is it something that coaches should avoid? And I can't ask that question as a follow-up, but there's no ethical problem. There's no issue as far as that stuff is concerned. Now, let me give you the longer answer to this. Should you be coaching friends and family? I think that there's a bigger question to ask about whether or not you should coach friends or family, because just because you can doesn't mean that you should. And here's the reason why. One of those big things about coaching friends and family, I want to give you a couple of points on this. When it comes to coaching friends and family, it's okay, and I'm throwing family in there. I know you only ask about friends, but there's some real points that we need to keep in mind. First point is, and it's really a question of, can you go there? What do I mean by that? Can you go there with this individual? I think that should probably means just what it says. when it comes to friends and family, a lot of times what we're doing in these kinds of relationships is what we have to keep in mind is that we have a history with this person, right? We have a history. And with regard to that history, there is good and there's bad. And one of the things that's true when it comes to good, not only does it come good and bad. So what I would say in this is that, first of all, with regard to good and bad history, is that we need to make sure that if we have not taken care of our accounts with people, is that we need to make sure that everything that is in these things, the bad stuff with regard to that, is that all of those things are resolved. And for some people, that's easier said than done. When I say resolved, meaning anything that's going on in the past, like you don't have bitterness, you don't have resentment, you don't have forgiveness issues, and vice versa. Like if you've got something from your past that, and this is one of the things of coaching somebody that you don't know, and you're simply a professional in the relationship, you're not bringing in any potential baggage. So we're talking about that baggage is the very thing that we need to have resolved, because how are you going to help someone if they've got some of these things that are going on? So making sure that we resolve the personal kinds of things. Otherwise, you can't go there. It's really hard to go there with somebody when you have baggage that's happening. But it's also a question of permission. So even if everything is resolved and everything is good and you don't have conflict and forgiveness issues or any of that other stuff, let's say you don't have any of that. Do you have permission to go there? Do you have, what I would say is, do we have access to go there? Because there's a lot of things that are in our relationships. Do you know, a lot of times we'll have friends, we'll have family members, we might have a spouse, we might have a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. And a lot of times in those kinds of relationships is that we dance around eggshells all the time, because we just know that we don't have permission to talk about certain things, ask about certain things, confront things. Because I will tell you this, is that coaching is at times, it's pushy. Coaching sometimes is confrontational. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because what do we want? We want the greatness to come out of someone. And you know what that means? Is that sometimes for people, because there's no change in someone's life unless there's resistance. A lot of times we're able to do that really easily when it comes to a professional. Somebody might need, you might have somebody in your life that you want to tell that they should be making better, healthy choices in their life. And you're not the one who gets the opportunity to say that. But if they went to the doctor can say that, and it's not personal, right? They can go there. They have permission because of the type of relationship that it is. So in this first part of things, we have to ask this question: can you go there? Can you actually coach someone professionally? And these are questions that you probably have to ask of yourself, but you'll also have to ask of that potential friend or family member that wants to be coached by you. We have to be able to go there, and we have to be able to ask these kinds of questions. So what I always recommend is that we have that conversation to set, and this is what we've got to do, is that we've got to set boundaries and standards when it comes to coaching people. What are we talking about in setting boundaries? Is that we've got to have a professional relationship. So when I'm saying this, what I'm really talking about is that sometimes with friends and family, is that we're not real professional about our relationships a lot of times. Friends, we're kind of informal and all of that other stuff. So what we've got to do is that we've got to set boundaries and we've got to set standards. Boundaries in, here's what we're talking about. This is a relationship that's going somewhere. I'm not your friend right now. I'm not your brother. I'm not your mom. I'm not your sister. I'm not any of those things. You know what I am? I'm your coach. and I'm going to go there. And I'm going to push you to in ways that you've never actually been pushed before. And so when we have professional standards, because we've got to set that boundary. Like they need to know that when they show up in that moment is that there are professional standards and boundaries that we are adhering to. You know what that also means? It also means time is valued. And a lot of times with friends and family, they don't really value our time the same way. How do I know that? Because friends and family sometimes want friend and family discounts. And that's one of the things that I always tell our coaches is no discounts. Why does somebody who's a family member, why does someone who is a friend deserve a discount? Why do we do this? No one should assume that because they're my friend that they get a discount. No one should assume that anyone should get a discount from you because you're a friend or a family member. If what you do is so great and they want your help, then don't be ashamed of getting paid market value. Anytime that I have actually asked someone, if I think enough of their work, because this is what it really comes down to. People cannot get transformation out of someone or an experience that there is not skin in the game. Cut rate coaching, free coaching, discount coaching never helps people. It just doesn't, because people have to have skin in the game. Transformation happens in the heart, but the heart is connected to the wallet. I can't change that. That's a spiritual principle. I'm not big enough to be able to change that. This is the currency in people's lives. It's money and it's time. Those are the things in our culture these days in Western civilization that are the biggest things that we actually have, and that people have a finite resource when it comes to these things. So if somebody's not willing to pay for something, if they are not willing to be on time, if they no-show, because this is what happens with people who get cut rate coaching and discount coaching. They no-show, they cancel. You know what else they do? They forget. They will forget that meeting entirely. These are real problems that happen when people get all of this discount stuff. It should actually all fall under the discount part. Now, the worst part is you're going to be frustrated. You're going to be resentful at a certain point because you're only human, right? And they're not going to get change in their life because they're no-showing, canceling, showing up late. And we need to have standards in that. So you know what the standards are? I give the exact same standards for friends and family that I do with anybody else. And here's what they are. Not only am I your coach, but we have professional, we're having a professional relationship here. You know what that means? It means that we set an appointment, we both show up on time, we're ready to work. It means that if you show up 15 minutes late, I'm not giving you 15 minutes more. You know what it also means? It means if you no-show or cancel and it's not a true emergency, I still get paid and you don't get that time back. Now, some of you are probably afraid of having that conversation with friends and family. And if you're afraid to have these kinds of conversations with them, then don't coach them, because you can only go as far as people actually value what you bring to the table. So these two big parts here is very much relational in nature. Can I go there? Can I actually function as a coach with this person? Do they actually value me as a professional? Because if they don't, then I'm gonna have a really hard time to in helping them get the change and transformation that they want in their life. So these are the big, and that's why I had to have a bigger conversation about this answer, because it's not just as simple as yes, you can coach friends and family, or no, you can't coach friends and family. I just say, hey, put these standards out there, put these things in place. And that is what is, and if you can say yes to all of these things, like all of this is in order, then absolutely go for it. Sign them up today. But if you cannot even have this conversation with them, then I would have real concerns that you're going to see any change in their life at all, and whether or not you can really help them. And it's not your fault. It's just the nature of the relationship. Just because you can coach someone doesn't mean that you should. All right. I think I answered that one pretty decent. What other questions do we have for this week? Let me look on the chat really quickly. Yeah, I need to speak to that again. Xavier was bringing up that quote. There's no change in someone's life without resistance. This is one of those key points in anyone's life. If there's not a resistance, if you're not being stretched, if you're not being pushed, I mean, think about it in your life. In the times of your life when it was the easiest, probably when you were a kid for a lot of years or whatever, there might have been a certain time when you weren't having to forage for yourself and you weren't having to buy your own clothes or whatever. Might have been a period in your life when there was really very little change that's happening, like around you. There was very little resistance. And the result is that we didn't really have a lot of transformation in our life. Because if everything is equal, if everything's the same, if the environment never really changes, then you don't really change. But when the environment changes and you're challenged in some kind of way, those are the things that actually transform us in our life. It's always going to be resistance and being able to adapt as a result of that. Hey, there's Diane. Diane says, sorry I'm late, from South Carolina. Welcome, Diane. Awesome. Let's see. Is this a question? Kathy says, my niche is women who want to level up in leadership or become first-time leaders. I'm stuck on naming my coaching practice, seeing the use of either their name or using the name of their niche. I don't know what the question is there, Kathy. If you could clarify what your question is, I can definitely answer it. What I would say in general, and this is one of those big key points that I usually give to coaches. Just like literally earlier today, talking to a coach, one of the things that about this very thing, clear, specific, and simple rules over clever every day. I'll say that again. Clear, simple, and specific in your branding and in your marketing message, rules over clever every day. Unless clever help someone actually connect you with what the problem is. And I talk about this in great detail in our brand camp. When someone sees your name, your brand or whatever, we want them to be associated with the problem that you solve and the desire that you help people get. That's why we'll have a lot of these coaches, and I see them do it all the time because we have a lot of them that follow us on Instagram or ask me to look at stuff and everything else. And a lot of times their website and all of their messaging that they're putting on their social media, it's like a cool brand name for their coaching, and you don't know what the heck it does. Like, you don't know what they do, who they help, what problems they help people solve, and what solutions you help people get. So I'm a really big proponent of, if it's not in your brand name, at least have a tagline that explains to people what your coaching is, who it's for. They should know in seconds with whatever you come up with. So you can actually have your brand name as just your name. But just like you're saying, you're talking about leadership coaching. I think that's got to be, if it's not in your brand name, it's got to be in your tagline. They should be able to know that instantly. And as you put it here, that you're talking about leadership, level up in leadership or first-time leaders, and women. So something that brings women in leadership together. Some kind of a name that, again, it's just got to be something really simple, and that they can understand it. Just you saying something like level up, could that be a brand name that looks like level up, but it's women leadership coaching for women, something like that. And so it's all together, and it fits very nicely and neatly, and they already know when they look at it really quickly before they get to any of the rest of your messaging that you summed it up really quickly. Hopefully that's kind of helpful there. All right. Ira says, how do I find my first client? Well, tell me what you're doing. That's my first thought is, who's your niche? I need to know who your niche is. And so we need to know who this is for and what problems are you helping people solve? Like, simply, like, we need one group of people and we need one problem. Can you give me that in the comments and I can respond to it? Who's your who? What's the problem that you're helping them solve? What is the thing that they really want? And what's the barrier that's keeping them? throw that in the comments. And that's the first place where I would start before you can find anybody as a client, and I can respond to that. What other questions do you guys have for me this week? And that's some great questions so far. What other questions do you guys have for me this week that you'd like to throw in there? Kathy says, let me look back. Kathy's coaching level up leader. Well, you might just drop the Kathy's part and just say level up leadership coaching for women, and level up as your brand name in the tagline, or it could actually be part of the brand name, leadership coaching for women, or leadership coaching for professional women, or something like that. So yeah, it really is that simple. All right. Ira says, let me go back. Ira says, I want to help Russian female immigrants in America. Okay, that's your target, right? It's a very specific target. What is it that they want? What's the desire that they want, and what's the barrier? What's the one problem that you're trying to solve with regard to that? Because it's a very specific niche, but as far as it's a very specific target, I should say. Target market's different than niche. Target market's your people. Niche is what problem do you help them solve? What solution do you help them get? Finish that for me. Okay, so Ira says to assimilate. Well, I'm going to assume here, because it's such a specific target market and niche. Let me ask you this. Were you at one time your own client? Like you were who your clients are that are coming in now? Like this is actually part of your story. If you would throw that in the comments, and I can respond to that. Let's see. Bernadine says, do you as a coach still see a coach or mentor? The way that I have functioned in my life is I have had mentors throughout my life, but it doesn't mean that I have a lifetime mentor, because usually for me, I'll have people. And what's the goal of a mentor? The goal of a mentor is to impart something out of their wisdom, out of their life. Essentially, when you look at a mentor, what you're looking at is that there's at least one area of their life that they might be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 20 years ahead of you in one particular area of their life. And so you have a relationship with them because you want to draw out of their experience, out of their wisdom, and those kinds of things. So I've had various kinds of mentors. Not all of them were coaching mentors. I have had coaching mentors. But what I like to think is that when it comes to mentors, hopefully we outgrow them. If we have good mentors, we should outgrow them at a certain point. Not that we are saying that somebody doesn't, do they run out of wisdom? Do they run out of experience or whatever? But what I really think in a mentoring relationship, the healthy ones, is that we're not in someone's shadow for the rest of our lives. Know what you want, what you're specifically trying to get in your life when it comes to a mentor, what specific area, because they might not be able to speak into every area, but when you choose one, choose it for that specific thing that you see in their life. And so, actually, one of my mentors just recently passed away, coaching mentor in the last year or so, and his name is Philip Sandahl. He was from the Bay Area, really world-renowned coach and brilliant, but very, very gentle. I mean, he was a gentle giant in the field, just a very fatherly kind of person, and we all, as far as the entire world in the coaching realm, who so many people know him, we lost a giant. But and I was and I'm very grateful that for a time that he was speaking into my life, and was actually a friend at the exact same time. Just like friendly conversations that we had, not just business, but just like saw something in me the first time that I met him. And so that's one of those that I've had that it was coaching specific. Let's see. Darlene says, my niche has been working with couples before they are married and speaking to small groups. My business has been negatively impacted both by COVID and my day job because I was deployed to assist in vaccine efforts. How can I turn things around so that I can leave my day job and begin the transition of corporate coaching, Rocky Mountain, North Carolina? Well, are you still focused, Darlene, on corporate coaching specifically? And if you would, just throw that in the comments. Is that what you're looking for specifically with regard to corporate coaching? And the second question that I want to ask you is, when you say it negatively impacted you, is it because you don't have the opportunity to go in person? Because I would say that a lot of things have come back in the last, particularly in the last 90 days, as far as what's open. Because I mean, I literally was watching sporting events in the last week or so, and there's like 15,000 people in the house or whatever in some of these things, which is really mind-boggling. But two questions: are you still doing corporate coaching? Is that still your niche? Secondly, how is it still negatively impacting as you see it from what you're trying to do? Kathy says, what tool do you recommend to build a website? There are so many: Wix, Squarespace, GoDaddy. I don't want to say anything negative about any services. I would say in general, GoDaddy's builder was always kind of clunky, and that's why I really didn't like them as a website builder. Depending on your technical skills, if you are tech savvy, WordPress is a great platform, but if you are not tech savvy, I wouldn't go that direction, because you'll probably be frustrated and spend 20 hours doing something that probably would have taken you 15 minutes on a different platform. So if you're not tech savvy, don't do WordPress. I think Wix is great. I think Squarespace is great, and it has a lot of add-ons on there for email lists and email management and those kinds of things. And it's also not really expensive. So when you choose those services, you can use their drag and drop builder, and they have a lot of templates that you can choose from to design your website, color schemes, and all of that. Also, because I know that you are enrolled in Jumpstart, jump into Brand Camp. One section that we have in Brand Camp is all about the tips, basic tips on web design, color schemes, all of that stuff, search engine optimization. We cover that in great detail in there, and you have access to that at your fingertips even today. Ira says, yes, I was my own client. I want to help my clients to feel comfortable, feel like they belong here. Many immigrants don't feel at home in the United States. So here's what I would say in that. I have my own story. Now, I was born, oddly enough, in Tennessee, of all places. But I literally, just coming back from Mississippi and spending some time with my mom, I came back with some old stuff. And one of those was actually my dad's, my grandfather had written this piece of paper that had my dad's certificate of citizenship and everything else. And this was like back from like the 60s or whatever. So I have my own story with regard to that. And that's never been my niche or anything else. But what I would say in general, first of all, if you know who your who is, what I would say is, since you have been your own, you've been that person, you've lived that story. What that means is that you know more about what they're thinking, what their fears are, what their frustrations are, all of those kinds of things. And you also know where they're at. You also know where they're hanging out in community. You can probably identify where those communities exist, like even geographically, which is really, really huge for a particular immigrant population. My family, they were all Palestinian, but they came to the United States. Some of them came through Ellis Island, but some of them actually came through Honduras, which is crazy. Here's the interesting thing. Just me knowing this, and no one else would know that, is that around New Orleans area, where all my family lives, has the largest per capita Honduran population in the entire United States. How would I know that? Except that I have family that lived in Honduras and they immigrated to the United States. That's information that you have. So that gives you an idea. Where do we start? When we know who our who is, then we need to start going where are they at right now? Is there a particular religion? Do they find themselves in a religious community? My family was all Orthodox, coming from Palestine. That's not the case for everybody from Palestine. My family was Orthodox. Very possible that that many Russians are Orthodox as well. So there's certain ways what we're able to do, even in a traditional sense, find where people are living, finding where they're connecting, but also online as well. If you want to be a hybrid or an online coach, then this is one of those places where I can actually find any community online right now. I can find them on Facebook. I can find them in any kind of social media platform. I can find them on YouTube. I can literally find pretty much any niche that I'm looking for in that. And the cool thing is that I don't know any coaches who are doing that particular thing. Is it needed? I'd say absolutely. And so you already walking out this story, think about the things that you needed. Think about the community that you are already a part of. Where do these people live? What do they need? And how you can connect with them from that standpoint. So that's really what we're talking about, is that when I talk about marketing and branding and everything else, I use those as kind of generic terms. But when it comes to a coaching practice, what we're trying to do is make a relational connection. We need to build a relationship of trust, likability, and show a certain level of expertise in what we do. And so what that means is that I'm not just out there trying to have a cool brand or a cool logo. What I am trying to do is to build relationships within groups of people. And sometimes that means that those groups already exist. Even when I was just doing executive and team performance coaching in San Diego, I went to specific areas where I could just make connections with all of these people who were in the corporate world, people who were friends with my potential client and everything else. All that meant that of what I was going to do is that I was going to show up at networking groups. And this is a way that I did it. Went to a networking group, made some great connections in there, developed a relationship, and opened the door to my business. I just served that group of people as much as I possibly could. And I built relationship with them. That's all you're going to be doing to get your clients. It's a very specific target. It's a very specific niche. And it's very possible that where you live right now, that community might already exist. And so that could be in a traditional sense, but it could also be online as well. That's where you're going to find your first client. It's not just propping up a website or social media. It means that I've got to develop relationship with this group of people, earn trust, and then address what it is that is actually in the way and welcome them into that. So hopefully that's helpful. Let's see. Darlene says, I'm marrying couples and coaching. I am doing small event coaching and would like to add corporate coaching to my services. Okay, cool. Well, here's what I would say about that in general. One is, let's define one really clear niche to go after and be really successful in it. Corporate coaching, if you're trying to add that on to what you're doing, it just needs to make sense with regard to the umbrella. And so I'm not saying that you can't coach a lot of different kinds of people. What I am saying for everybody who's listening to me is that we need to get really good at defining what that niche is and really serving it really well. And if you're wanting to add on corporate coaching, then you're going to have to figure out, okay, where do these people live? Specifically, when it comes to corporate coaching, what is it that is your sweet spot inside of corporate coaching? What do you want to be known for? What are you passionate about? What do you love in that? Mine inside of corporate coaching was specifically team coaching, and it was making teams more productive. That made a lot more sense to people. It means that it affects their bottom line. We want people to be more satisfied in their work, finding their sweet spot at work, and also being productive. Shifting the atmosphere, shifting the culture of an organization. These kinds of things is this kinds of stuff that I talked about when I went in doing my version of corporate coaching. I niched down, and so we can't just say corporate. We need to specifically say, "Hey, this is what I bring to the table. That is my sweet spot and my passion." And we can find. I mean, again, in this, is it means that we've just got to develop a relationship with people. Do you want to offer this virtually, or do you only have the opportunity to do this in person? And what I would say is that these days we're able to do so many different things virtually. Like, not only do I train people virtually all the time and coach people virtually, I mean, it's a fraction of my clients these days in my coaching face-to-face. And that looks really different these days. And so use those tools, because for one, it's going to put more money in your pocket because you're not going to have the expense of driving around or anything else. But also it's just, it makes it easier for someone to say yes. Like if they don't have to worry about flying me in or hosting me or anything else, because that's thousands of dollars right there. Whenever I did a lot of travel in the past, I knew that was going to be part of the package, is that they're going to spend thousands of dollars before I ever get there. And most people were fine in doing that. But now everybody's grabbing on to virtual tools, and I actually like that. And so being able to actually offer that and to lead with that might be something that can help you, because yeah, COVID kind of did a disturbance for a lot of people, but it actually opened up more revenue opportunity for coaches than really probably we've ever seen before. People are so open to doing things virtually that weren't just a few years ago. Hopefully that's helpful. Let's see. Xavier says, you might be my mentor for a while, Paul, but I assure you I'm working my best to make our relationship evolve as rapidly as possible. I love that. Here's what I'm going to say for every one of you that you've given me a place in your life. My shoulders is what you get to stand on. It's what our whole Jumpstart program is about. Why we designed our Jumpstart program is because there were so many people who were trying to break into coaching and they didn't know how to get clients. They didn't even know how to begin. And so that's really it. My ceiling's your floor. You don't have to figure out, there's so many things where you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and you don't have to do this by yourself. The how-to portion is what we actually put into place. And also we do our best. I always do my best to actually be relationally connected to people, because I'm invested in all of you and I get to know people by name and know things about their life and everything else. That's the kind of program, even though we're virtual, right? Even though we're online, we're very much a part of people's lives and getting connected to there. And so Xavier, my expectation is, and I'll say this over your life, you're going to make more money than I've ever made in my life. You're going to do more things. You're going to help more people. You're going to be a better coach. You're going to be a better listener. You're going to be a better everything than what I've done. And so just take everything that I've got and just amp it up, because you can absolutely do this. And I want you to succeed, because, hey man, that actually enhances my reputation. If you become some really famous person and you're like, well, there was this guy, Paul Dabdoub, who helped me. Hey, I would appreciate those kudos every now and then when you make it big, Xavier. Oh, let's see. Virginia says, this webinar is very helpful and I haven't started training. That's so awesome. Appreciate that. You are so welcome, Ira. That's awesome. Yeah, use Zoom if people are open to that. That's awesome. Bernadine says, thank you for a great Monday and being awesome, speaking those positive words for Xavier. Thank you. Yeah, that's what we do though, right? Hey, let me pay the bills really quickly, and I'm going to take a couple more questions, but just want to make sure that anyone who missed out on this previously can actually find out about it now. One of the things that we are always doing for our coaches is that we are always trying to develop, oh, come on, let's go back in time here. One of the things that we're always trying to do is develop new training and new tools and tips to simplify your life. My goal is that let's try to make something as simple, understandable, put this thing in layman's terms, that you can watch something and you actually know all of your questions are answered. We take all the guesswork away, and we just create a path where you can thrive as a coach. That's what our goal is, because you know what? Most of our coaches are working full-time and have families and everything else. So we need to actually create training and tools that you can actually utilize to help you get where you want to go faster, or I should say, at least as fast as you would like to go. One of the things that we are going to be dropping on Saturday is called How to Grow Your Instagram Following for Coaches. Again, that's going to drop on Saturday. The reason why we put this training together is because increasingly people have gotten very comfortable in business with using social media, and increasingly I've watched coaches move from just a traditional coaching practice in many cases to making a hybrid coaching practice or going fully online. But how do you do that? And what we always want to do is these platforms are all diverse. They're always really different, but we want to see you use these things as effectively as you possibly can. I see a lot of coaches using Instagram, but they're using it terribly. Matter of fact, it's cringeworthy. I'm not trying to knock these coaches, but sometimes I'll go on people's Instagram and they're doing all these yoga poses. And I'm like, is this a yoga instructor? No, they're a life coach. That's my second question. Are they a life coach? Are they a yoga instructor or a life coach? Or sometimes they're both. Or they're stacking up rocks on a beach and showing a picture of that or something like that. No knock on this, but that's not actually going to get anyone clients. And honestly, what I see a lot of coaches doing is that they're trying to utilize methods in Instagram that were relevant a few years ago that are not relevant anymore. Who's this training for? Well, we've made this training for a few different kinds of people. One is for some of you coaches who want to use it, but you've been intimidated and you haven't dove in there yet. Coaches who've been working really hard, but not getting traction. So if you've been trying to post and you've had your Instagram out there, but you haven't gotten a client yet, or you're not seeing your following actually grow, then this training's for you. Also, this training's for coaches who have gotten some results, but they just want to get better results. Because again, what we're trying to do, I went back to school just in the last few months with some influencers and some people who are just crushing it in the industry. And I've got the current trends that are actually going on in Instagram in terms of how are people actually gaining followers and getting clients. So what we're going to include is the latest trends in growing your Instagram. We're going to talk about what the algorithm currently is in Instagram, what it rewards, because there's some things in Instagram that are rewarded and some things that really aren't. We're going to talk about what's no longer working, because some of you are still doing things that were relevant a couple of years ago that are not relevant anymore. And finally, we're going to talk about the most common mistakes coaches are making and how to correct them. The way that you can get this is one of a couple of different ways. One is you can get the training for only $47. The link to that page is inside the description today. Or you can enroll in Jumpstart, because Jumpstart students get this workshop included in their regular subscription. So again, that link is in the video description right now, both on Instagram, both on Facebook and on YouTube. Now, let me say this about Jumpstart. For those of you who have never heard about Jumpstart or anything else, it's the best deal that I believe actually exists in the industry. Two questions that you always need to ask about any school is, first of all, can this school lead me, teach me, train me to coaching proficiency? That's one thing that you need to ask. Second question that you need to ask, have these people been successful in business, and can they help me be successful in business? Those are the two most relevant, most compelling, most important questions that any of you should be asking about any school that's out there. I'm happy to say that we cover all the bases on that. Matter of fact, our mission statement that's also our slogan is proficient coaching, coaches thriving practices. That's what we're really here for, and that's what we're known for. I'm a multi-six-figure coach. I only tell you that because you need to ask that about whatever program you're looking into. Have you been successful in business? Because a lot of times people are coaching people or training people in coaching, but they've never actually been successful as a coach. You need to actually ask that question. Have you made money at this gig? How much money are you currently making right now? Like, those are important questions that I would actually ask. Our Jumpstart program includes every program that we offer. We cover your life coach training. We cover your life coach certification. You get your credential ID that also, and your certificate, which is hosted online, that you can pull into LinkedIn or your website or any social media account. We give you a free listing on lifecoachmatch.com. That is our online directory. It's normally $75 a year. You get it for free. Not only that, you get our weekend long live coaching bootcamp. This goes beyond what you learn in the life coach certification course, because we want to bring you to mastery in the core competencies of coaching. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Everything is fully live online. And, even though most of our training is actually just self-paced, and you're able, and I will say this, even with any of these things, you have instant access to it in about 90 seconds when you enroll, and you can access all of this training immediately when you get in there. But live also has its perks, because when you're live, you can actually engage in role playing. You can watch that going on, because we do role playing demos over the course of the weekend. We do live Q&As at the end of each one of those sessions inside of Bootcamp. And our next Bootcamp's coming up in September. You enroll in Jumpstart now, you'll have access to that. Not only that, you get Brand Camp. That's about 12 hours. It's focused completely on discovering your niche, figuring out your branding, your marketing messaging, clarifying all of those things. When you walk away from that, you will have a brand script. You will know exactly how to build your website and all of those other things. Also, you get monthly specialty topics like this Instagram training that's coming up on Saturday. You'll have access to every time we go with a new topic. You'll have access to those things. I do a weekly group coaching call every Wednesday that's live for all of the students who are part of that. We have an archive of about 5 years. So if you miss the live training, so what is the live training about, or the live coaching call? Well, it's for you to ask your questions. If you get stuck anywhere in your business development, struggling with a client or anything else, that's that support mechanism where we fill in the gaps so that you never feel like you're alone or you're stuck. There's an online community where you can connect with other coaches. You can always get feedback on anything that you're working on. All of these things, all the future updates that we have, is $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. Now, for those of you who just want the Instagram training this weekend, click that link inside the description. It's $47. But you can enroll in Jumpstart, and you can get all of these things: training, certification, business development help, for $97 a month. There is nothing like this in the coaching world. Not only are we the largest life coach training program in North America, but we are also very good at what we do. And no one is doing it for the price point that we are doing it, because we are for you as a coach. We're for you because we know many of you are just like me, working full-time, taking care of family, trying to figure out how you make ends meet, and not with a whole lot of margin in your life, and sometimes not a lot of margin in your budget. We're here for you. We're going to add more value into you than you're ever going to pay. But we need you just to respond. Like today, if you've thought about becoming a coach more than a couple of times, I want to call you out of procrastination and into action to actually do that. All right, let me see if there's any other questions that I see in here. Darlene says, you are awesome, and I am grateful to you. Thank you. Will the Instagram training be information, or will there be how-to demonstrations? There will be. We will be adding some how-to things that are in there. One of the things that you're going to learn in this Instagram training is that we're past the day when everybody was trying to be so like perfect and dialed in and sexy. That's where Instagram used to be. It's not really there anymore. So actually, a lot of the things that we're going to talk about and show you, there's not a whole lot of how-to when it comes to that, because simpler's better. Authentic rules the day with regard to all of those things. And so there's going to be a little bit of how-to from the standpoint of, hey, how do you make this? How do you make a reel? Some of those, that's stuff. What I would say is that if you are a complete Instagram novice, we're not going to do all of the, like, here's where this is in the app and everything else. We're not going to go excessive on that. We do want you to have a little bit of understanding about Instagram, because what I'm going to show you is all of the things of how often should you be posting? What do you do with hashtags? There's a lot of information on that. And so you do need to come in with some familiarity on Instagram, some basic familiarity when it comes to there in terms of how does the app work and stuff like that. So hopefully that's helpful. That's a great question, though. Bart says, my coaching biz is leaning towards helping entrepreneurial types. Is that specific enough, or should I drill down further at this point in my coaching practice? I think it's really, when you say entrepreneurial types, then if it's entrepreneurial coaching, then I think that we should just spell it out as that. Because entrepreneurial type, I know what that is in terms of a personality, but it's a little bit harder to make it personality based unless you are just literally making it personality-based coaching, So if this is coaching for entrepreneurs, I mean, there might be a focus area. So are these startups? So if I said, hey, I'm a business coach for startups, that's really, really specific. And that's going to get a lot more traction than just saying I'm a business coach, right? And so I think that you just need to dial that in a little bit more. What specifically for entrepreneurs is it that you help people get, and what do you help them get out of the way? What problem are you helping them solve? So if you can dial that part in, then I think that you'll strike gold. Let's see here. Ira says, do you think all coaches should have an Instagram account? Is it better than Facebook or a personal website? Well, we're talking about different things. So this isn't, when you talk about Facebook and a website and Instagram, we're not comparing apples here. They're all really, really different. I think that every coach should have a website. And mostly because at the very least, a website, even if you're a traditional coach, is your business card. At the very least, your website's your business card. It doesn't have to be a huge website or anything else, but I would also say that your website should be utilized as a tool to build a relationship with people, to maybe get people to sign up for an email list or whatever. But when I think of websites, I'm looking for an engagement tool. I'm looking for something to be able to, on an ongoing way, engage people, send them an email, bring them back to the website or whatever. With regard to Facebook and Instagram, these are engagement tools as well that people have on their phone. They may not go to your website every day, but people who are on Instagram pretty much use it daily, right? People who are on Facebook use it pretty frequently. Not everybody, because true that there's all of these users and not everybody is staying engaged every day. But the reality is that people in most cases are accessing it on their phones. So it's an incredible tool to stay engaged and stay in a dialogue and stay in a conversation with people. But I will say this, Facebook has an older user group than Instagram in general. So part of this comes out of the familiarity with the platforms. Facebook is leaning a little bit older, and the usage of Facebook is a little bit different than the way people are using Instagram. Instagram's a lot of pictures, short videos, really quick content. The engagement just looks a little bit different when someone goes on there. And honestly, when somebody goes on Instagram, they're looking at a lot more content than they are when they're utilizing Facebook. Why? Because on Instagram, what do you have? You have stories and you have pictures and you have some videos and reels, and you're scrolling through. So they might look at hundreds, thousands maybe of the course of scrolling, because it's really quick content. So the delivery of it looks a little bit different, and it's a younger demographic in general. So you just have to choose where's your demographic. You can utilize both. You can cross-post to both. But I'm not saying that everybody needs to be on Instagram, and I'm not saying that everybody needs to be on Facebook. I think that you need to be wherever your people are. Now, when I was talking about communities and making a connection, particularly with your target market that you are pursuing, I would have to believe that there are Facebook communities, Facebook groups that already exist around that. That's not something that Instagram has. It doesn't have a community engagement aspect. So the way that we're relating to people through Instagram is a little bit different. It's a powerful tool, but it all depends on where are your people looking currently. Like, where are they at right now? Because that's where you want to be. That's what should drive whatever platform ultimately that you choose. So hopefully that's helpful. Kathy says, I'm enjoying the Jumpstart program. So much information. I have so many notes. That's awesome. Michelle says, Jumpstart's been a blessing. Bill says, Brand Camp is well worth the time and effort. A lot of great concepts and practical methods to incorporate into your coaching practice. Thanks so much for that, Bill. Again, you can get Brand Camp inside of Jumpstart if you guys enroll. Xavier says, thanks for the kind words. I received them. Awesome. Well, very good. Well, listen, we're in a little bit of overtime. You guys have been amazing. I expect nothing less. You guys are always amazing. And thank you so much for your thoughts and prayers for my family the last couple of weeks and dealing with my mom having surgery and everything else. I'm happy to be back, though. It's good to be back in my own stomping grounds where it's a little bit cooler. you know, it's always good to go back and visit family. If you guys saw my Facebook post, I'm still pretty bloated from the last couple of weeks. Way too much fried food. But you know what? I grew up on soul food. My mom cooked all of that stuff when we were growing up. And I had an amazing time eating things that I don't have access to in California. But now I'm trying to go through a little bit of a recovery period because after a while, that's not the best way to treat your body. But you can get away with it for, you know, a few weeks like I did. But anyway, that aside, thank you so much for all your thoughts and prayers. So glad to be back and live with you again. Listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Do me a huge favor, like this post, share it, comment. That just tells YouTube and Facebook that we're doing a good job. That means the world to us. And also, if you haven't become a coach yet, do us a huge favor. Click a link inside the description. If you want this Instagram training that drops this weekend, get signed up now. That would be amazing. Otherwise, you can join. You can enroll in Jumpstart, and you get trained and certified, and you can get to the Instagram training at your leisure. So anyway, listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Kathy says, "Are you doing any training on TikTok? Maybe in the future, not immediately, but that might be a couple of months down the road." So we're looking at all of these platforms right now and looking at the latest trends so that we give you up-to-date information, because some of the reality is a lot of this training can get dated really, really quickly. And so we've got to pick and choose on that. But thanks for that suggestion. Awesome. Is it applicable for executive coaching, all of our training? Yes, because executive is a niche. So what we found is that we have coaches who choose a wide range of niches, but we're able to really help you dial in to who you're trying to work with and be really effective in being able to find them and building a coaching practice around that. So absolutely. All right. Well, I am going to head out. Thank you for that, Michelle. Have a great rest of your week and take care.